The USS Thunder drifted through the void of space like a predator waiting for prey. Captain James stood on the bridge, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the stars through the massive viewport. The warship had been on patrol for 3 months in the outer rim of human territory, where space was dark and dangerous. "Captain, we have multiple contacts on long-range sensors," Lieutenant Smith announced from her station. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, pulling up data streams that painted a concerning picture. 7 ships, unknown configuration. They're moving in attack formation. James nodded slowly. He had been expecting this. Intelligence. Reports had warned of increased alien activity in this sector. The Krell Empire had been testing human defenses for months, sending small raids to probe for weaknesses. They thought humans were soft, easy targets, because humanity had only been in space for 200 years. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Distance? James asked, his voice calm as still water. 40,000 kilometers and closing. Fast. They'll be in weapons range in 12 minutes, Smith replied. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. No panic, no rushed movements. Every person knew their job and did it well. This was what separated human warships from others in the galaxy. While other species relied on advanced technology or superior numbers, humans had something else entirely: the ability to remain deadly calm in the face of danger. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," the communications officer, Lieutenant Brown, reported. "Should I put it through?" "Let's hear what they have to say," James said, a slight smile touching his lips. The bridge speakers crackled too. "Life." A harsh, grating voice filled the air, speaking in broken human language. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vex of the Krell Empire. You are alone and outnumbered. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to live as slaves. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then someone chuckled. It was Sergeant Miller from the weapons station. 7? Against 1? They really think that's enough? James walked to the center of the bridge, his boots clicking against the metal floor. "Lieutenant Brown, open a channel." "Channel open, sir." "Commander Vex, this is Captain James of the USS Thunder. I'm going to give you one chance to turn around and leave human space. This is your only warning." The alien's laughter was like grinding. "Metal. Foolish human. You dare threaten the might of the Krell Empire? We have conquered 100 worlds. Your species has barely learned to leave your planet. You will burn." James sighed and looked at his crew. Each face showed the same expression. Not fear, not anger, but something far more dangerous: determination. "All hands, this is the captain," James announced over the ship's intercom. "Battle stations. I repeat, battle stations. We have 7. Hostile vessels approaching. Let's show them why humans are the apex predators of Earth." The ship transformed. Lights dimmed to combat levels. Blast doors sealed. Weapon systems came online with a low, threatening hum. The Thunder had been built for one purpose: to protect humanity's interests in space. Every system, every weapon, every piece of armor had been designed with one thought in mind. Humans might be new to space, but they had been perfecting the art of war for thousands of years. "Sir, they're accelerating," Smith reported. "Weapons are charging. They're really going to do this." James returned to his command chair and sat down. "Then let's give them what they want. Weapons free. Target the lead ship first. Show them what happens when you threaten a human warship." The Krell ships rushed forward, confident in their numbers and technology. They had no idea they were charging toward their doom. The USS Thunder waited patiently, like a trap about to spring. In the darkness of space, where there was no sound, the silence before battle was absolute. But on the bridge of the Thunder, every heart beat with the same rhythm. Humanity's message to the galaxy was about to be written in fire and destruction. The apex predator was about to strike. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the lone human vessel on his displays. The ship looked unremarkable, a gray, angular design that lacked the elegant curves of Krell warships. His warriors laughed and made jokes about the primitive humans who dared to stand against them. The humans haven't even activated their shields yet, his tactical officer reported with amusement. They must be paralyzed with fear. Vex's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. Something felt wrong. The human ship sat there, waiting, like a rock in space. No evasive maneuvers, no panic, no attempts to flee. It was unnatural. Every species they had conquered had shown fear when faced with the Krell fleet. Perhaps their systems have failed, another officer suggested. Their technology is inferior. But Vex had survived too many battles to ignore his instincts. Maintain formation. All ships prepare for... The human ship moved not. It wasn't like the movement of other vessels Vex had seen. The thunder didn't lumber or strain against inertia. It danced. In one fluid motion, the warship rolled, bringing its entire port side to bear on the Krell formation. Weapon ports that had been hidden suddenly blazed to life. Incoming fire. Someone screamed. The first salvo was unlike anything the Krell had encountered. Humans didn't use energy beams or plasma bolts like most civilized species. They used kinetic weapons. Chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. The railgun rounds tore through space at 20% the speed of light. Invisible death racing toward the Krell ships. The lead vessel, Vex's own brother's ship, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of debris and fire. The round had punched through its shields like they were made of paper, through the hull, through the reactor core, and out the other side. Impossible, Vex roared. Return fire, all weapons. The Krell ships opened fire with their energy weapons, bright beams of destruction lancing through space. But the thunder was already moving, rolling and diving in patterns that seemed to predict where the shots would be. Its point defense systems, controlled by an AI that could think faster than any organic mind, picked off the few shots that came close. Then the missiles came, hundreds of them, launched from pods along the Thunder's hull. They weren't just simple explosives. Each missile had its own AI, its own sensors, its own hunger for targets. They spread out like a swarm of angry wasps, accelerating at rates that would kill any living thing. Deploy countermeasures. Vex ordered, but it was too late. The missiles didn't fly straight paths. They danced and weaved, some going dark and drifting like debris before suddenly coming back to life. Others split into smaller warheads. Some released clouds of metal chaff that confused Krell sensors. This was human warfare, not just violence, but violence perfected into an art form. Second Krell ship tried to flee, turning to run. The Thunder's main gun spoke once. A tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole, wrapped in a magnetic field and accelerated to obscene speeds, caught the fleeing vessel amidships. The kinetic energy released was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The ship didn't explode. It shattered, torn apart at the molecular level. On the Thunder's bridge, Captain James watched with cold efficiency. Target 3 is trying to flank us. Miller, show them why that's a bad idea. With pleasure, sir. Miller's hands moved across his controls with the precision of a concert pianist. The Thunder's broadside gun swiveled, tracked, and fired in. Perfect synchronization that the third Krell ship lasted 4 seconds. Sir, the remaining ships are grouping together, Smith reported. They're forming a defensive sphere. James stood up, hands still clasped behind his back. They're learning. 2. Bad, it's too late. Deploy the drones. From the Thunder's belly, 100 combat drones launched. Each one was small, fast, and carried a single nuclear warhead. They didn't need to be smart or sophisticated. They just needed to be numerous and relentless. Vex watched his tactical display in horror as the swarm approached. His remaining ships fired desperately, taking down dozens of drones. But for every one destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "This isn't warfare," his tactical officer whispered in terror. "This is extermination." Vex finally understood. Humans weren't new to war. They had been practicing it on each other for their entire existence. And now, in space, they had brought all that terrible knowledge with them. The swarm reached the Krell formation. Asterisk. Lieutenant Smith watched her sensors as 3 more Krell ships vanished in nuclear fire. The drones had done their work with mechanical precision, overwhelming the alien point defense systems through sheer numbers. Now only Commander Vex's flagship remained, limping through space with half its engines destroyed. "Sir, the last ship is venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches," she reported. "Their weapons are offline. They're finished." Captain James stood from his command chair and walked to the viewport. The Krell flagship spun slowly, fires burning in the vacuum where oxygen leaked from torn metal. It was a pitiful sight, but James felt no satisfaction. This hadn't been a battle. It had been an execution. "Are they broadcasting?" he asked. Lieutenant Brown checked his station. "Yes, sir, but it's weak. Should one put it through?" The bridge speakers crackled with static before Vex's voice came through, weaker now, filled with pain and confusion. Why do you not finish us? Is this human mercy?" James was quiet for a moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. They could end this with a single shot, but something made him pause. Not mercy, exactly, but purpose. "Commander Vex, can you receive visual communication?" James asked, double quotes, "Yes, yes, we can." "Put us on screen, Lieutenant Brown." The main display shifted to show the interior of the Krell bridge. It was a scene of devastation. Smoke filled the air, sparks shot from damaged consoles, and wounded Krell lay scattered across the deck. Vex himself stood in the center, his uniform torn, green blood seeping from a gash across his head. "Look at me, Commander," James said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Do you see fear in my eyes?" Vex's 4 eyes focused on the human captain. What he saw there made him step back. There was no fear, no anger, no hatred. Just a cold, calculating intelligence that viewed him as nothing more than a problem to be solved. "Your empire has made a mistake," James continued. "You thought humans were prey because we're new to space. But we're not prey, Commander. We're predators. For millions of years, we evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. We didn't just survive. We conquered. We hunted animals larger than your ships with nothing but sharp sticks. We crossed oceans on wooden rafts to find new things. To kill. We split the atom just to make better weapons." The bridge of the Thunder was silent. Every crew member knew this speech wasn't just for the aliens. "And now you've awakened something that was better left sleeping," James said. "We tried to be peaceful. We tried to explore, to trade, to make friends among the stars. But you've reminded us of what we really are." Vex's translator struggled with the next word James spoke, but the meaning was clear in any language. "Please, please." Vex gasped, his pride finally broken. "We surrender. We were wrong. Humans are not prey. We understand now." James nodded slowly. "Yes, you do. And you're going to make sure everyone else understands too. We're going to repair your ship enough to limp home. You're going to return to your empire and deliver a message." What message? That human space is off limits. At any ship that enters our territory, will be considered hostile and destroyed without warning. That we have thousands of ships like the Thunder, and each one is crewed by people who've been studying war since before your species discovered fire. It was a lie, partially. Humanity had perhaps 100 warships total, and the Thunder was one of the best. But Vex didn't need to know that. Fear was a weapon too, and humans had always been good at psychological warfare. And if they don't, believe me? Vex asked. James smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then we'll stop pretending to be civilized. We'll show the galaxy what humans do to threats. We once had a saying on Earth, kill one to warn 100. Today, we killed 6 of your ships. Consider yourself the warning. The connection was cut. James turned to his crew. Dispatch repair drones to stabilize their ship. Give them minimum life support and basic engine function. Nothing more. Sir, Miller spoke up from weapons. What if they come back with a larger fleet? James returned to his chair and sat down heavily. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, uncaring about the violence that had just occurred. Then we remind them that humans don't just win wars, Sergeant. We perfect them. 3 weeks later, the Krell Empire's High Council convened in emergency session. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid, housed representatives from all conquered worlds under Krell rule. 100 species watched as Commander Vex was brought before them, still bearing the scars of his encounter. High Admiral Zorn, Supreme Commander of all Krell forces, looked down at Vex with disgust. You lost 6 ships to a single human vessel. This is unprecedented failure. High Admiral, with respect, it wasn't a battle, Vex said, his voice steady despite his fear. It was a demonstration. Explain yourself before we execute you for cowardice. Another council member demanded. Vex activated a holographic projector, showing the tactical data from the battle. The council watched in silence as ships disappeared from the display one by one. The speed, the precision, the ruthless efficiency of it all was unlike anything in their military databases. The humans don't fight like us, Vex explained. We use energy weapons because they're civilized, clean. The humans use kinetic weapons. Primitive, you might say. But a chunk of metal moving at 20% light speed doesn't care about our shields. It just goes through. Barbaric, someone muttered. Effective, Vex corrected. And that's just their weapons. Their tactics are something else entirely. They call it the art of war. They've been perfecting it for thousands of years, fighting each other, learning, adapting. Every trick, every strategy, every possible way to kill, they've tried it, refined it, perfected it. High Admiral Zorn's 6 arms crossed in contemplation. One ship cannot stop an empire. We'll send 100 ships, 1,000 if necessary, and they'll send more, Vex said quietly. The human captain told me they have thousands of warships, each one crewed by warriors who've been trained since birth in the ways of violence. It was the lie James had told, but Vex believed it completely. The fear in his voice was real. You believe these humans are truly that dangerous? Zorn asked. Vex pulled up another display, a file he'd managed to access about human history. This is from their own historical records. In something they call World War II, humans killed 60 million of their own kind in just 6 years. They dropped atomic weapons on their own cities. They built camps specifically designed to exterminate millions efficiently. And that was when they only had one planet. The council chamber fell silent. Several members shifted uncomfortably. They're insane, someone whispered. No, Vex said. They're predators, and we made the mistake of threatening them. Meanwhile, aboard the Thunder, Captain James received a transmission from Earth's High Command. Admiral Roberts appeared on the boom. Secure channel, her face grave. Captain, your engagement with the Krell has caused quite a stir. The entire galactic community is talking about it. Good or bad? James asked. Both. 3 species have withdrawn their ambassadors from Earth in fear, but 4 others have requested defensive alliances. They want our protection. James nodded. It was as he'd expected. Fear and respect often go hand in hand, Admiral. The President wants to know if you think the Krell will retaliate. James thought for a moment. No, we broke more than their ships, Admiral. We broke their confidence. They came expecting sheep and found wolves. It'll take them time to process that. And if you're wrong, then we do what humans have always done. We adapt, we survive, and we win. After the transmission ended, James found himself alone on the observation deck. Lieutenant Smith joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thinking about home, sir? She asked, handing him a cup. Thinking about what we've become, James replied. For 50 years, we tried to be the peaceful explorers. We wanted to be like the species in those old science fiction stories, enlightened, beyond violence. But we're not, Smith said. It wasn't a question. No, we're not. We're the species that conquered a death world. We're the ones who split atoms and reached for the stars not in spite of our violent nature, but because of it. Competition, conflict, the drive to be better than our enemies. That's what pushed us to the stars. Smith sipped her coffee. Do you think we'll ever change? James watched the stars, infinite and cold. Maybe, but not today. Today, the galaxy learned that humans aren't just another species trying to find their place among the stars. We're the reason other species check their locks at night. The Thunder continued its patrol, silent and deadly, a guardian in the dark. Asterisk. 6 months after the Battle of the Outer Rim, as historians would later call it, the galaxy had changed. The footage of the Thunder's engagement, leaked by unknown sources, spread across every civilized world. Species that had never heard of. Humans before now spoke the name with a mixture of fear and fascination. On the trading station Nova Prime, representatives from dozen worlds gathered for an emergency summit. The topic, how to deal with the human question. Ambassador Crix of the Altarian Federation stood before the assembly. The humans have shown themselves to be incredibly dangerous. We must unite against them before they conquer us all. And give them a reason to see us all as enemies? Ambassador Yote of the Melody Republic countered. Did you not see what one ship did to 7? What would 100 human ships do to our united fleet? The debate raged for hours. Some called for preemptive strikes, others for isolation, and still others for alliance. But one voice, unexpected and powerful, changed everything. Commander Vex entered the chamber. The Krell Empire has a statement, he announced. The room fell silent. Everyone knew Vex's story, his survival, his warning. The Krell Empire formally recognizes human territorial sovereignty and commits to peaceful relations with Earth. Vex read from an official document. Furthermore, we request a non-aggression pact and potential trade agreements. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Krell, who had conquered 100 worlds, were essentially surrendering to a species that had only been in space for 2 centuries. You're giving up? Crix asked in disbelief. We're surviving, Vex corrected. The humans don't want to conquer. They want to be left alone. Captain James made that clear. But if threatened, he let the sentence hang in the air. Back on Earth, the news of the Krell's decision was met with mixed reactions. Some celebrated, others worried about appearing too aggressive. But in the military academies, a new doctrine was being taught, inspired by the Thunder's engagement. Overwhelming force, applied with precision, instructed Colonel Williams too. A room full of cadets. That's the human way. We don't fight fair. We fight to win, quickly and decisively. Every battle should be so one-sided that it prevents the next 10 battles. One cadet raised her hand. But sir, doesn't that make us the villains? William smiled grimly. To a deer, the wolf is a villain. But the wolf is just trying to survive. We're not heroes or villains, cadet. We're humans. We're survivors. And in space, just like on Earth, survival often means being the deadliest thing in the room. Captain James, now promoted to Admiral, stood before the United Earth Council to give his final report on the engagement. The galaxy sees us differently. Now, he said, we're no longer the newcomers, the curiosity. We're the predators who emerged from the dark forest of space. Some fear us, some respect us, and some want to test us. We must be ready for all three. What do you recommend, Admiral? The President asked. We continue to build our fleet, but we also extend genuine offers of friendship to those who approach us peacefully. We've shown our teeth. Now we can afford to show our hearts as well. But always, we must be ready to remind them why. Humans survived when so many other species on Earth didn't. The Council voted unanimously to adopt James's recommendations. A year later, the first Galactic Peace Summit was held on Earth. Species from across the galaxy came to sign mutual defense and trade agreements. The Krell were there, as were the Altarians, the Melody, and dozens of others. During the closing ceremony, Admiral James was asked to speak. He stood before representatives of 100 worlds and spoke words that would echo through history. We, humans, have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We've shown you our capacity for war. Now, let us show you our capacity for peace. But know this, we will defend ourselves, our allies, and our ideals with every terrible skill we've learned in our violent history. The thunder was not an anomaly. It was a promise. The galaxy heard that promise and understood. Humans were not to be trifled with. They were the sleeping giants who had awakened, the wolves who had learned to build STARSHRB, and in the vast darkness between stars, human warships patrolled, silent and watchful, ensuring that the peace born from the thunder's violence would endure. The predators had become protectors, but their teeth remained sharp. The age of human space had truly begun. Asterisk,